I want to talk to you a little bit. Got to multitask. I got an appointment at the salon. Get a little bit of a haircut here. So, let me tell you guys what's going on. Snappity snap. Yoel Romero. I had a very unique opportunity to get a visit with Yoel yesterday, but I also got to watch Yoel, okay? Yoel, this build, I couldn't believe how popular he was. We do what's called an establishing shot, which is where the guy arrives at the arena. You guys maybe think of it as an arrival shot. Great. The crowd went crazy for him. I mean, just seeing him walk into the locker room in the back, knowing he was there and about to wrap his hands, this building goes crazy. It was really interesting. Now he's going to take on Nemkov. Nemkov is about 27 years old. Nemkov is a top 2 protege of Fedor Emelianenko. He's never officially put them in order. But it's a top 2 prospect. And he's really good, right? The problem that you've got when you're fighting Yoel is you don't ever know what it is you're taking on. Now, I go back with Yoel till the time he was 19 years old. And I just went back as a fan. I had never met him. In fact, it's possible that last night is the first time I've met him in person. But when Yoel was 19, when Yoel was on the national team for the country of Cuba for wrestling, okay? There was an American from right up the road who happens to be my idol, Les Gutches. And these two would match up. And Les is the baddest dude I've ever met. And he would go back and forth with this Cuban, a 19-year-old Cuban named Yoel Romero. Now, something you have to understand, guys, is the story that I'm telling you, while being great memories for me, is from back in the 90s. And nobody really knows how age works. Like, that's never fully been explained to people. But there's a big part of me that believes if he was older than me in 1997, that he has to be older than me now. And the tail of the tape is saying differently. The tail of the tape has Yoel and I's age at the same thing, 46 years old apiece. And maybe he caught me, or maybe I caught him. Maybe I went up 2 one time, or there was some birthday and I went up 3 one time. Like, I don't really know how that works, but in the 90s, 1997 specifically, he was older than me. And I only bring that up because he's out there fighting for world championships in a sold-out arena with a crowd that's fully in his corner. Oh, and by the way, it was competitive. Now, how do I get to that conclusion? How do I get to the conclusion that we had a competitive match when it was a 50-45 score? Well, real easy if you know Yoel Romero. So, when I go back to me being a fan and watching Yoel wrestle, guys, he could wrestle somebody with very little experience, right? Very little experience. And Yoel would beat the guy 3-1. He'd beat the guy 1-0. But Yoel could also wrestle in the semifinals of the World Championships, and he would beat the guy 3-1. He'd beat the guy 1-0. This is just what he did. Yoel had a very disciplined style and approach when he was wrestling, which is don't ever show more than you have to. Don't ever score unless you have to. And there was a number of guys that did that if they had the athleticism and the explosiveness that Yoel had. But it was very hard to track these guys. The whole match, they're doing a rope-a-dope. The entire contest, they look like they're exhausted. 30 seconds in, you think they're exhausted. And Yoel brings us over to MMA. He throws rounds away. He will throw combos away. He will let you hit him, not just to wear yourself out. That's part of it, but the other part is he wants you to believe that he is worn out. It's just a very fascinating concept. So even though it was 50-45, every single round, there was a moment. There's what's called the hope spot. There was moments where Yoel was setting him up. And Yoel's big thing to set him up, and Nemkov fell for this a couple of times. Nemkov took some real big shots. But his Yoel will let you think that he's hurt. He'll start stumbling backwards. He'll start bobbing his head. He'll look like he's going to slip and go down. He's waiting for you to come in. Boom. He threw some shots that if they would have connected, likely would have ended the night for Nemkov. Nemkov just too tough, right? Nemkov was so good, and he was getting frustrated. By the way, I don't think Nemkov liked some of the mannerisms that Yoel was doing. Remember how Anderson used to piss people off with some of the movements he was doing? And people would call Anderson arrogant, or they'd call him cocky. They were wrong. That was just his setups. Anderson was setting those guys up. And Yoel was doing the same thing. And I just thought that was very interesting. Like, as I watch a 46-year-old doing I can only think of two other 46-year-olds that fought at that level. Dan Henderson and Randy Couture. I don't know that anybody else has ever fought at that level for a world championship of a major organization. On worldwide television, oh, not to mention in front of a sold-out arena. Come on, man. He goes into a very elite and special group. But as Yoel's performances and experiences in time is winding down, I don't want you to miss it, right? Luke Rockhold was whipping his ass until he wasn't. Chris Weidman had done everything he needed to do that night. Just run out the clock until he wasn't. Tim Kennedy put one of the worst beatings of the year on Yoel until he didn't. This is what he does. So watching that fight, knowing it's 5 rounds, and knowing the best of Yoel is still in front of us, it just made for the evening. And that match specifically, in what the business we call a hope spot, where no matter what the score is and no matter how the tide is turning, if the athlete produces a moment of hope, oh my gosh, he's gonna catch him. Yoel did at least one of those each round, and it made it a lot of fun to watch.